Hey y'all, so come ride out with me. I want to talk to you guys about that time I tried to unalive myself. Trigger warning is going to be talking about some abuse in different forms, and it's going to possibly be emotional. So whatever it is, it's going to be honest. So here we go. So I was around between the ages of 14 and 15. I tried doing that 2 times. I tried to unalive myself 2 times. One time was I was slashing. I was cutting. And I remember in particular, well, the first time I tried it, I was actually like trying to overdose on pills. So I had taken a bunch of pills I had gotten just from everybody's house. I would just like get a little bit every time, like the old people would be like, go get my medicine. I would just go in, I'll go grab, a couple of extra pills. But me, and I was just thinking about it, like, with taking all these pills make me feel better. And I remember when I was trying to take the pills, I just wanted to go to sleep. And that was my mindset. I wanted to like go to sleep and forget about everything that was going on around me, and not have to, deal with it. My thought was I would wake up and all that stuff that I was having to deal with would be gone. It would no longer be happening. It was all a dream. And that didn't happen. So I wound up getting really, really sick and threw up the pills. So that's how that first attempt went. And now during that time, I was going through sexual abuse with my mother's new husband. I was 11 when he first tried to assault me, tried to push me into him and my mother's bedroom. And while it was a Orno playing on the TV, I could hear the sound effects from the actors on the Orno. And I wound up falling on the ground in the hallway. And at this time, he had on a pair of boxer shorts. Now they had the slot in the front of it for the genitals. So his personal space was hanging outside of the boxer shorts. And I'm on the ground, on the floor. He's standing towering over me with his stuff hanging out. And I'm on the floor trying to figure out where do I need to go in order to escape. Because if I get pushed back into that bedroom, I know it's going to be a wrap from there. It's going to be a fight to the death. And the hallway closet was available, and then the bathroom was available. Neither one of those had windows, so I wouldn't have been able to get out of there. I would have just been able to lock myself in there until he broke the door down. And then both of those were very small and secluded spaces, and to be trapped in a small and secluded place with somebody that's trying to attack you and that's bigger than you, it was like, nah, that wouldn't be smart. So immediately I was like, God, you said this wouldn't happen to me again. Like, help me, like, protect me. And I promise you, from the top of the linen closet, there was nobody else in the house besides my mother's new husband and myself, my little 11-year-old self. And that bottle, that spray starch bottle, the Niagara Falls spray starch, came from the top shelf in that linen closet, rolled into the hallway and into my hand. I was able to hit him in the head, crawl underneath his legs, ran out into the living room, and sat back down in the living room and asked, can I go outside now? He comes out of the hallway holding his head, the head on top of his shoulders, and he's like, you can go outside, but you can't tell anybody. You know, if you tell somebody, nobody's going to believe you, and you could get hurt, or your mom could get hurt. I was like, okay, I promise I'm not going to say nothing. Can I go outside? So he was like, that's fine, go outside. So he let me go outside, and I ran to, at the time, one of my best friend's house. She stayed in the building in front of us by the play park. And they opened up the door, and I just went into their living room, and I sat on the floor in front of the sofa, and I just put my head down in my knees, like, you know how you kind of like pull your knees up to your chest while you sit down on the floor? And then I just put my head down. I crossed my arms and just put my head down on my knees. And I just started weeping, like sobbing, like, I can't believe this just happened. Him and my mama just got married. And then they didn't even include me in it. I don't like him. And then he just did that. Like, he's disgusting. Like, he is disgusting. And the fact that he was like, he was sheriff of the city of Portsmouth or whatever, and then he went from that to being military police. It was just like, just the fact that somebody would want to abuse their authority. And then how many other people or young ladies have you done this to? How many other girlfriends with daughters did you try this on? And do you try this on the boys also? Like, you trifling and perverted. So how perverted is it? So I was just thinking about all that stuff while I was sitting on the floor crying. And the fact that my mama had tied herself to this man, I couldn't. And my friends, they was asking me what's wrong, what's going on. I could not get it together. It was so difficult to even say anything. I wound up calling my uncle and telling him what happened as best I could. And he told me I need to get out of there. My uncle was one of the ones, he kept it a stack. He had his own personal issues and stuff, but he always kept it real with me. Very real, like blunt and bold. And I'm going to tell you what it is because I don't need you to be a stupid girl out here. And I was like, okay. So he was just like, you know what? You got to come over here. You got to come stay with your grandma. So I went to go stay with them for a little bit, for my grandma, for a short while. She was in and out of the mental institute though, so in the hospital. So I couldn't. It was a lot going on in the family right then. So wound up getting taken by my mom. I found this information out later on when I was in my 30s, late 20s, early 30s, that actually CPS had taken me away from my mom, which is why I had to go stay in the neighborhood behind us at some of my classmates' houses. But that's how I also met my God family, like my bonus family. Like, I was rough around the edges, and they was too. And it was just like we all just really, we fit very well together. Our personalities fit very well together. So yeah, I wound up, the second time I tried to unalive myself, that was me doing the cutting. And this was at my grandma's house at the time. And at this point, I was about 13 and a half, 14. And I had a child at that point, because after the first incident at 11, when my stepdad tried to, or whatever, tried to abuse me, I wound up getting a boyfriend, because at that point, I was like, I got to get out of this house. And that means the earlier I get married, or the earlier I get into a good relationship, the quicker they'll be able to help me get out of this situation, so I don't have to live, because my mama here with him now. And I was always a protector for my mom. I was a single, my mom was a single mother, and I was the only child. So it was like, anytime my mom had anything that she needed, I felt like it was my job and duty to assist her in being able to get it, because it was just us two in the house. We had to make this thing work. So, like, she didn't like using paper food stamps. I didn't mind. I would go around the block or whatever, around the hood, and just, you know what I'm saying, trade off the paper food stamps for real food, or like go to the candy lady and buy like the snacks and stuff that I would think my mom would want to eat, because I couldn't go to the grocery store. I couldn't walk to the grocery store. So, but that was just some of the things like we went through. So long story, going back to the story, I was taken from my mom by CPS, stayed at the people house, went back to my grandma's house after my mom had finished up with the trial and stuff. Her husband had been placed on paper duty, administrative duty, so he was no longer actively acting in authority as a sheriff. And then my mom, you know, the investigators, they came up to the school. I was at Deep Creek, and they came up to the school or whatever and pulled me out of the class. And it was just so embarrassing because it felt like everybody knew what was going on. And then these detectives were sitting there, and they're like, well, explain to us what happened. And I explained. It was like having to relive it all over again. That was pretty traumatizing. And then from there, what else happened? Oh, okay, so that's how we led up to how did I wind up getting pregnant, and getting ready to do that second attempt to unalive myself. So we thank y'all for staying. It's 11 minutes already. So I wind up dating somebody. Every summer he would come down and we would talk or whatever. But this particular summer, because the house that I ran to when the first incident happened, now they were all older. All the girls that were there, my best friend and her sister and the aunts and all of them, they were older. And it was like the moms were like friends with the daughters kind of thing. Like they wearing each other clothes, and the daughters were like 15 to 17. So like they had more experience in life and knew about more things. So we wound up having a sleepover at their house, and a bunch of the other girls from the neighborhood came over there. And I remember them saying something about their man ate their pet feline. I'll say that, okay? But they weren't talking about a pet feline, if you catch my drift. And I was like so naive. And at that time I was 12. So I'm like, well, what is that? And why would anybody eat your pet? Like, who eats people animals? And everybody just bust out laughing, except for one other girl. Me and her looked at each other like, what's so funny? Like, and then we realized, like, we totally did not know what we were talking about. And we were lost in the sauce. So we just basically were quiet the rest of the night and just listened. But I went to, you know, my little boyfriend or whatever, my little summertime boyfriend. And I asked him if he knew what I was. And he was like, yeah, I know what that is. I know all about that. He was like, I could tell you. I could show you. Like, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's how we got into it. And then my mom and my stepdad, like, they used to play like all the R&B music and stuff, so I knew how like to turn the music on. So I took my little Just For Me tape. Y'all might not remember that, but if you old school, like, we used to have these tape cassettes that you could record on, and it went to a perm box named Just For Me. So I would take those tapes and I would record all the late night Quiet Storm on 103 Jams on my little tape recorder. Yeah, so I made my jam session for when I finally had my little summertime boyfriend come over. And he did come over, and we did the sex ed thing, put the condom, the C on, the ondom. We put the ondom on. The first one wound up coming off inside of me. So he had to fish that out. And then the second one, when he got to the end of him, you know, it popped. And it was just like, oh my goodness. So I jump up, I, you know, try to go use the bathroom, I try to take a shower. All the stuff that they tell you don't work when you have that inside of your body after intercourse has completed. Yeah, that's what wound up happening. So that's how I wound up getting pregnant. So I was 12 when I got pregnant and 13 when I had my son. So I was a teen mom. And then right after that, I actually was having an issue again with my mom's husband, and so that's why I went back to go stay with my grandmother. So after that, it was me with the child, all the stuff that was going on. I just felt like my life was crumbling. I felt unloved. I felt unsafe. I felt like now I was a disgrace, because now the neighborhood adults that knew my grandma, they were coming around and looking down on me. They're like, oh my gosh, how would you have a baby? Just look at you. Like, what am I supposed to do with you now? Like, you don't have to do anything with me. Like, my parents was doing, like, where were you at when I needed somebody to do something for me? Like, don't come over here shaking your head at me in disbelief. Like, come on now. So judging me, go judge your daughter. Judge your mama. Go judge somebody who care. Because you judging me is only going to make me look at you like, why are you judging a child? Y'all didn't give me no additional information, and y'all dang sure ain't give me no protection. So it went from that to, all right, I'm just angry. I don't want to be here no more. And I started cutting. I started slicing my wrist. And the scissors were so dull. So I was working extra hard trying to break my skin. And I started hearing, right before like my skin broke open at the artery, I started hearing a baby cry. Now, my son was in school, and I was thinking, like, well, he'll be taken care of. Everybody, you know, they love the boys. They making sure that the boys are good. It's just the girls that didn't have the protection. And then I realized the boys were verbally and emotionally abused. They might not have been sexually or physically abused, but they dang sure was still having to deal with forms of abuse, dysfunction. So I was just like, you know what? And I didn't even, that was that immature. And this is why I'm so grateful that Most High, Allah Damare, did not allow me, thank you God, did not allow me to perish when I tried to do that. Thank you God for life. Because that would have been so selfish, and that would have left my child in such a hard place, like just difficult, emotionally, heartfelt, detached. Like, what mental healing? I would have traumatized that baby. Even though I didn't feel like I was the best parent, especially by me being a teenage mother, at least I was active and I was present, and I was always working to make sure that I showed him that I'm present, I'm here, I'm a protector, I can do as much as I know how to do for you. It's a lot of stuff that I don't know. We low-key, high-key actually kind of grew up together. So, yeah, that's what it is. So, just breathe through those issues when you have different issues like that, and be able to eventually mentally prepare yourself to have sit-down conversations with the people that you feel like violated you or neglected you. I've had a conversation with my mother and with my mother's husband couple times. So we'll talk about that another story time. It's already 1841. Thank y'all. Peace.